Well, fires don't pay attention to boundaries. A fire burns up, it doesn't matter whether it's Forest Service land or private land or tribal lands, it's just going to burn until it runs out of fuel. Well, we need to be thinking about ecological restoration in the same way. If we take care of the land, it's going to take care of us. And that totality needs to be addressed in all energy, everywhere, regardless of who the landowner is.
The problems facing our national forests and our watersheds are too big for one agency to do alone. We really need to partner. We need to work together to get out of the problem that we're in.
Now, public agencies, scientists, and private businesses have collaborated on the Forest Restoration Initiative, a 20-year management plan to improve forest and watershed health. Forthright will rehabilitate an area that stretches from the Grand Canyon to the border of New Mexico.
The Forest Restoration Initiative is the largest restoration project in the history of the Forest Service. Our goal is actually to restore those ponderosa pine forests to a more resilient ecosystem.
In the timber wars of the 1990s, federal managers, environmentalists, and business operators clashed over logging practices and the conservation of wildlife habitat. After years of legal battles, access to wood on national forest lands was severely limited, and many timber operations were shut down. Now these former adversaries are coming together to plan and implement Forthright.
The Forest Restoration Initiative has a very robust collaborative group that ranges from actually environmental groups to timber industry and everything in between.
So it's a really interesting and exciting set of partnerships we have between a less than traditional cast of characters.
And that is the most positive outcome of our fires, our catastrophic fires, is that everybody is working collaboratively to fix this forest.
Forthright aims to restore 2.4 million acres across 4 national forests. Restoration starts by thinning the landscape of small diameter trees and woody biomass, excess limbs, needles, and treetops.
This is like video editing in real time. Yes.
We're particularly concerned about the old growth trees. They're the most critical parts of the ecosystem. And what we found on these restored sites, as soon as you thin them out and reintroduce natural fire, these old growth trees, some of which are 500 to 600 years old, start growing like teenagers.
After thinning, prescribed fire is a managed reintroduction of fire back into the ecosystem. Prescribed burns rejuvenate the soils and support a more diverse and resilient landscape.
We want fire back into these forests. We want fire that's frequent, that's low intensity, that's safe, that's beneficial, and that's necessary for the health of these forests.
We have our fires that occur every so often, and we're able to manage them and actually give benefits. They do more good than harm.
If we can get to the point where we can let these fires burn naturally, we will have achieved the restoration that is so vital to protecting these watersheds.
All right, so I think with that, I was going to show you some of the research, but we're kind of running short on time, but I am involved. I've been working, actually, one of the main speakers, Wally, who's my PhD dissertation advisor, when I was getting my PhD back at NAU with the Ecological Restoration Institute. And we have collaborated with NAU. We have a more dynamic conifer forest research project that's near Pagosa that we started in 2002. We did bank treatments, we did prescribed fire treatments, and we are doing our post-10 measurement this summer. I've also been working with Gretchen, who's here, looking at some of the ramifications of Missionary Ridge Fire. So when the Missionary Ridge Fire happened, myself and some other folks with the San Juan National Forest, we got together and we established a long-term research study. There's 840 permanent plots within the Missionary Ridge Burn Fire perimeter. Mike, again, one of my students, he was out there collecting data this past summer on those plots. And so we have data from 2003, 2004, and then 2006, I believe. And then we went back to our ponderosa pine and more dragon's conifer plots and sampled those in 2017. So we're looking at some of that data. For my students and I, we put together a website that will be up and running that we can share with folks that has pre-post, post 1 year fire 2003, and then post 2017 fire photos, and we're going to have data associated with that, so you can kind of just go through and navigate that. And then this summer, or early fall, part of my sabbatical, I'm about to do a year sabbatical, I'm going to be hosting, and we're going to try to collaborate with NSI to do a field trip out to the burn area and kind of go look at some of these sites. And hopefully Gretchen or someone else will, from the San Juan National Forest will be joining us. So thank you.
If anybody has questions. And I do want to say, Julie alluded to it, the video mentions Forest Fry. We are very fortunate in this country to have several collaborative groups happening across the east and the west sides of the forest. And Forest Service, Colorado State Forest Service, San Juan Citizens Alliance are all part of those conversations, and it's really appreciated. So, questions for Julie?
Yes.
You know what the website's going to be for the Missionary Ridge data?
I was, well actually, if you, can you put back my PowerPoint quick? Because I actually have the link. It shows,
Do you want to repeat the question so other folks can hear it?
Do you have
Yeah,
a
it's very
website
nice.
address
Yeah.
for the Missionary Ridge data?
go back one, up more. Where do you want? Yeah, if you can make that large. Okay, so, so that is the website that it's going to be. And so basically it's going to be an interactive website. We're still making some changes. Gretchen just gave feedback this morning, I think. And so you'll be able to click on the comparison map. You can see those little circles. We're going to change those so each circle is related to fire severity. So you can go and say, okay, I want to look at those severity fires and see how they've changed across time. And right now we just have the photos in, but we're going to add the data that was collected with that as well. And then we have a time lapse looking at kind of the transition of the greening out of this area since the burn, and then some other maps.
It's really cool.
Yeah, Gretchen is excited about it. Yes.
So can you give some examples of the kind of data that you're collecting?
So these sites, all these sites, the format, since we were collaborating with the Forest Service, it was all based on stand exam data. So essentially, the common stand exam data is what was being collected at all these sites. Yes.
When you drive over Wolf Creek, which I've done for years, it just gets deader and deader. And with this very dry year, is that one of the most flammable parts of the area you've been studying?
Well, so if you go back to what I was showing, so one of the things we do now have these dead standing fuels, but we are at higher elevation. So that's where our snowpack in theory should last the longest remaining to kind of keep that fuel moisture higher. But again, if we have a quick spring runoff, we're going to have time for those fuels to dry off. And so yes, if we get some type of source of ignition, that pre-ignition phase is already going to be kind of primed to allow fire to spread. But you would obviously still need, warm temperatures to have it dry, have a wind to be able to kind of drive that fire across those fuels. Yes?
Julie, here's a follow-up on Lane's question here. Perhaps you could share with people who don't really know what standard exam data is. So could you share a little bit about
So we're collecting forest structure data, so the number of trees, so we would have like tree density data, tree basal area, how big the trees are, so we're measuring the DBH of those trees, the heights. We're looking at, it's a forest classification system, whether the tree is live or dead. the presence of insects in those plots. And then there's fuel transects. So there's these brown fuel transects to measure how much fuel is on the ground. And then also, originally in our earlier data, we had it down to species. So we could actually say, are there lupines coming back in these areas, or what flowering plants and grasses. The latest data was just collected on a grass board, looking at basically general substrate classes and looking at how much cover there is. Yes?
So back to the question about Wolf Creek Pass, and a lot of us would look at that forest and say that's an unhealthy forest with so much standing dead. So what needs to happen to that to get it to a healthy forest again? Does a big wildfire need to come through and burn all that standing dead, or what's your thought?
Right, so I think one of the things to realize is that these insect outbreaks, the spruce beetle is a native insect, and so historically we've had these insect outbreaks happening, and so we're kind of at a tipping point. There's been a lot of research done to kind of see have we crossed that threshold where the extent of these outbreaks is greater than we've seen historically, and we're not quite there yet. So 200 years ago, if we had that type of outbreak, those trees would be standing dead, and that's considered part of a healthy forest. So I think it's important to wrap our brain around and realize that dead standing trees, they provide wildlife habitat, they provide shade, they provide nurse trees so that new seedlings can be established. And so to kind of really look at the forest more holistically and say that that is just one phase. Maybe it doesn't look as pretty to us, but it's one phase of that successional pathway, kind of going back to restoring these forests. So that's a good question.